From the moment history began to be recorded, humans have relentlessly pursued two things: power and freedom. Power allowed them to conquer nature, protect their tribes, and expand territory. Freedom, however, is a deeper aspiration, urging them to overcome chains and break down the walls confining their bodies and minds. Ironically, the closer humanity gets to greater power, the more we have to ask, is freedom still intact, or has it merely changed color, morphing into a more sophisticated prison? The digital age we live in is the clearest proof of this paradox. Technology offers conveniences our ancestors never dared to dream of. With a small phone, you can talk to someone halfway across the globe, access the knowledge repository of humanity, and even control an artificial intelligence smarter than any professor. Is this freedom? Perhaps so, compared to ancient times when news took months to travel and ignorance veiled the world. However, behind that dazzling curtain, another reality exists. Every time you type into a search bar, pause for a few seconds on an image, or purchase an item online, it no longer belongs to you. These tiny fragments of private life are collected, aggregated, analyzed, and ultimately form your digital portrait, a version of you that is sometimes more accurate than your own self-understanding. We are happy to have the freedom of choice, but sometimes we don't realize that choice has been pre-programmed. The system suggests a movie you'll like, a dish you crave, a book you need. Everything is so convenient that we stop wondering, is this truly a free will, or just a reflex nurtured by countless data points? And if freedom is the ability to speak one's own voice, are we truly speaking, or just repeating what social media wants us to say? A status update can be a heartfelt expression, or just a chain reaction from thousands of others. The crowd cheers, and we cheer. The crowd is angry, and we are angry. In this invisible prison, the bars are not made of steel but of algorithms and habit. Technology is also clever because it makes us willingly step into the cage. No one forces you to post photos, shop online, or share your location. You do it all with enthusiasm. But then one day, you realize your life cannot be separated from the screen, and every trace has been recorded somewhere you never knew. Thus, the question becomes piercing. Are we heading towards greater freedom, or are we living in an invisible prison? A prison without guards, without iron bars, but one that leads billions of people obediently down a pre-marked path. Perhaps the answer lies in how we deal with technology itself. It is not guilty. Like fire, it can warm us or burn down the entire forest. But if we blindly chase convenience, freedom will gradually vanish, not through violence, but through sweetness and comfort. A form of soft, pleasant chain, so much so that we forget we are bound. The new gold data and the silent shift of power. If the 19th century was the era of steam, and the 20th was the era of electricity and oil, the 21st is the era of data. People used to say that oil was the black gold of the old world. Data is the white gold of today's world. But even this metaphor might not be enough, because oil, coal, and gold will eventually run out. But data is infinite, as its source flows ceaselessly. Human beings, every light touch on the screen, every step around a street corner, every smallest transactional are converted into numbers. We live in a space where every movement, every breath, and even every emotion can be measured and stored. If a diary was once the most secret place of the soul, today, that diary has been replaced by the colossal stream of data that tech companies silently keep, not in a private drawer but in gigantic servers running day and night. The strange thing is that we willingly surrender this data. A photo posted online, a trip logged by GPS, a private conversation via a messaging, a poll become a piece in the complete picture of ourselves. These pieces combine to form an invisible profile: consumer habits, political leanings, musical preferences, travel dreams, and even hidden fears. Someone once said, if the product is free, then you are the product. We think we are enjoying free services, social media, email, maps, news. But in reality, our attention and personal information are the goods being bought and sold. The buyers are not you, but advertising corporations, governments, and powers seeking to control both human behavior and thought. The world is witnessing a silent shift in power. Previously, power lay in the hands of those who owned land, gold, and weapons. Today, power belongs to those who hold data. A company that knows what you like, dislike, whether you are sad or happy, will have the power to manipulate your behavior without you even realizing it. You think you are buying a pair of shoes because you naturally felt the need. But in fact, hundreds of algorithms paved the way for that decision, planting the impulse in your mind. Data is no longer a lifeless number. It has become a tool to shape free will. And when human will can be guided by invisible lines of code, does freedom truly exist? Or is it just an illusion, a picture painted by the data itself, making us believe we are choosing freely, while in reality, every turn has been predetermined? We enter a society where the prison no longer has walls, but is defined by the data streams that surround us. A society where surveillance doesn't require police to knock on the door, but just a phone that is always in your pocket. And the paradox is, we not only accept it but feel safe, convenient, and comfortable in that prison. The illusion of choice and comprehensive surveillance. Contemporary people are often reassured that we live in an era of freedom, democracy, and individual choice. We can move easily, access information quickly, express opinions on social media, and seem unbound by the material chains of the past. But if we look deeper, we might realize we are trading genuine freedom for a false freedom, a kind of freedom within a framework that others have already drawn. For example, you think you have the right to choose a product, but in reality, marketing campaigns, recommendation algorithms, and consumer psychology have guided you to that decision. You believe you are speaking your personal opinion on social media, but in fact, algorithms are shaping how you speak, how you think, and even what you are afraid to say. The modern world no longer needs solid prison walls because technology, public opinion, and our own self-censorship have become much more effective chains. Another aspect of the invisible prison is comprehensive surveillance. Smartphones track your every step, security cameras record every action, and your personal data is collected and analyzed to create a detailed profile of who you are. All of this happens in the name of convenience and security, and you agree to it, not because you are forced, but because it has become such a part of daily life that you almost forget you are being watched. Even more subtly, control has become voluntary. People proudly share their personal information, habits, locations, meals, and emotions without anyone forcing them. This act of self-exposure makes the prison walls invisible, because the imprisoned person doesn't realize they are confined, and may even feel comfortable and happy. So, the question is, what is the true boundary of freedom? Is freedom simply the ability to choose within a certain range, or is it the right to determine one's own destiny without being manipulated by a system? Conversely, we cannot deny that humanity has made clear progress. Many nations have abolished slavery, many social groups have gained more rights to equality than ever before, and freedom of speech, freedom of belief, and freedom of love have been recognized and partially protected. But are all these signs that we are truly moving closer to freedom, or are they just another version of control, wrapped in a veneer of humanism and civilization? The consumer maze and the digital cage, a philosopher once said, freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want, but to know what you are doing and why. But in modern society, the majority of us no longer ask why. We are busy chasing the rhythm of life, chasing work, chasing material needs, to the point where we sometimes fail to recognize that our choices were already pre-programmed by the economic, media, and technological systems. In reality, consumerism is one of the most powerful invisible prisons. You work to earn money, use the money to shop, and then continue working to maintain that standard of living. The loop spins endlessly. It makes you believe that shopping brings happiness, that a new phone, a luxury car, or a bigger house are proof of freedom. But in fact, you are just walking through a pre-designed maze where the destination is never enough, because there will always be something newer, better, that makes you keep running. Another dimension is technology and digital surveillance. Today, an openly totalitarian government is not needed to create control. Tech giants do it much more subtly. They don't forbid you to speak, but they shape what you see and what you believe. They don't force you to follow any rules, but they turn you into a set of data, and that data is used to adjust your behavior, habits, and even your beliefs. Looking more broadly, we see a paradox. Humans have never been more materially free than today, but have never been so invisibly bound. You can travel the world easily, but visa systems, passports, and border controls remind you that freedom of movement only exists within a framework. You can write anything online, but with just a few sensitive lines, your post will be deleted, your account locked, or you may even face serious consequences. Most importantly, each individual is becoming their own jailer. We limit our thoughts for fear of criticism, self-censor our words to avoid trouble, and hide our true feelings for fear of being judged. When control becomes internalized, meaning people impose it on themselves, the construction of the invisible prison walls is complete. The big question returns: is this the inevitable path of human civilization? Must humanity, as it progresses, accept trading freedom for safety, convenience, and connection? Or is this just a phase, and will humanity eventually awaken to break these invisible chains? The glass cage and the call for awareness. If this trajectory continues, the future world will resemble a giant glass cage. The outside is transparent. We can still see the blue sky, open fields, and vast oceans. But inside, every step, every glance, every breath of a person is monitored, recorded, and analyzed. In that glass cage, freedom still exists, but only as an illusion. You can choose to buy an item you like, but in reality, it's the item an algorithm has subtly placed in your sight for months. You can choose to watch any movie, but the suggested list is built to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. You can connect with hundreds, thousands of people, but those relationships are maintained and shaped by how social media distributes information. Perhaps the most terrifying thing is not the loss of freedom, but that people no longer realize they have lost it. When all control becomes so sophisticated and soft, it turns into a habit. People feel comfortable being monitored, feel reassured when their data is protected, and feel convenient when a single tap makes everything happen. Thus, the invisible prison gradually turns into a warm home that everyone willingly stays in. However, human history shows a rule: no chain lasts forever. When the pressure is great enough, when the injustice is too obvious, when new generations begin to question why, a wave of resistance will rise. It can start subtly from small communities protecting digital privacy, from individuals daring to log off social media, from movements against mass surveillance, and gradually, it can become a global revolution of the concept of freedom. In the optimistic scenario, technology will no longer be a chain but a tool for liberation. AI, blockchain, encryption, and decentralized internet could put control back into human hands, instead of concentrating it in a few powerful organizations. But for that to happen, a collective awakening is needed where each person begins to ask, am I truly free, or am I just following a route that others have mapped out? In the pessimistic scenario, we will accept living in false security. The next generation will grow up in a world where surveillance is normal, where choices are dictated by algorithms, and the concept of freedom only exists in history books. At that point, the question, are we still free, will become meaningless, because no one will remember what true freedom is. And in between these two scenarios, perhaps a third path exists, the path of partial awakening. That is, we cannot completely escape the invisible prison, but we can learn to identify its bars, to at least know where we stand. Because understanding the chain is the first step toward finding a way to unbind it. Personal action, seeds of freedom facing this prospect. The real question is not just where is society going, but also what can I, a small individual, do? Perhaps we cannot instantly change the entire system, nor can we eliminate the power of tech corporations or end global surveillance. But within the small scope of our lives, we can still sow the seeds of freedom. First, there is awareness. When we realize we are being guided and shaped, we have stepped one foot out of the invisible trap, asking the questions: why am I buying this item? Why do I believe this information? Who benefits when I do this? Is the key to unlocking ourselves. Consciousness of control is the beginning of freedom. Second is limiting dependence. Technology is a tool, not a temple for us to worship. A day without social media will not kill us. A week without shopping will not make us poor. An hour without a phone will not make us disappear. When we dare to detach ourselves from the flow, even for a moment, we realize that freedom is not far away. It begins with self-control. Third is choosing to live consciously. Instead of being led by ads and sensational news, we can choose to read what truly nurtures the mind. Instead of chasing the image of the perfect life that society imposes, we can choose a simple life that truly belongs to us. Freedom is not about running away from everything, but about living authentically, even in a world that constantly tries to define us. Finally, individual freedom is also a political act. When one person dares to live truthfully, they become an example for others. When many people awaken, society will gradually shift. The invisible prison, after all, is only strong when we collectively maintain it. Once the majority begins to unfasten the chains, the walls will crack, and the light of freedom will seep in. Freedom, therefore, is not a distant dream, nor a privilege bestowed by someone else. It is a personal journey, step by step, choice by choice, awareness by awareness. And on that journey, the most important thing is never to let the flame of doubt and longing in our hearts be extinguished.